Hello, FPL managers. Welcome to the FPL Optimized podcast. This is episode number 69, which we are recording on Thursday evening with still two games of Gameweek 15 left to be played. I am Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist, and I'm really happy that he's back
Mhm.
again for today's episode. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass, or data and grass? That's the question. So, Sertalp, welcome back. How are you doing? How did Game Week 14 go for you? And how is Game Week 15 going so far?
Thank you. It's good to be back. I'm feeling much better. And thanks
Great.
for covering last week's episode. I wasn't sure if you were gonna do it or not, but it made me really
It was
happy to see that.
interesting.
Yeah, you flight solo, but it was great. You get lots of comments and lots of
Yeah,
likes this time around.
yeah, nice.
Um, Game week 14 went really well. I finished game week 14 with 74 points, and which
Yeah,
brought our head-to-head competition to 8-6. So as you see, like
yeah,
I'm only back, for the game week I won.
yeah.
Uh, so I
Very good.
won with a like 20 points margin actually, which is especially nice. I don't know, like maybe it should count as like double win. Maybe we can consider that. No.
No, 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 no. It's
Okay.
just a single win, but yeah, you did well. Yes.
Yeah, it was a good game week. So my OR jumped to 39k.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a good game week. And this week, it doesn't look too good. I mean, currently I'm at 26 points, but
Yeah,
I was lucky that Smikas didn't get any minutes, so that I'm getting Trippier off the bench, and then you're also
yeah.
getting Shar off the bench, as I see.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Ederson was on almost like 9 points before City conceded, unfortunately. So it
Oh,
was
you're
like,
back to Anderson. Okay.
yeah, I'm back to Ederson. I think that was going to give me a nice green arrow. But
Yeah,
now I'm on a slight arrow, like a very small red arrow. But if the
yeah.
projections hold, I might be back to a green arrow.
Okay.
It's very close, but we will see.
Yeah, yeah.
And how was
Well,
your
it's
game
not
week 14 and 15?
Yeah, well, I cannot be happy. I used my wild card and I had a red arrow, so that's never good. Just 54 points. Yeah, I had good hopes for the Arsenal defense against Wolves, and it was looking good for a long time. I had Raya and Sinchenko, but then Wolves scored, so that ruined my plans. And I also went for the Chelsea duo in midfield, Palmer and Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
But in game week 14, they just delivered 3 points combined, so that wasn't too great either. And I had Darwin, who only had 2 points. So overall, not really good. But I do think I'm set up quite well for the next game weeks. At least that's the plan. Game week 15 is also looking a bit better, even though also not spectacular. Currently on 34 points with still Pedro Porro and Shar to play. The Arsenal defense again let me down. At Luton, conceding 3 goals, that was not really expected. And yeah, I went with Raya on my wild card, especially for the last two games for Wolves and Luton, but that didn't work. Palmer did better, luckily, this game week with 8 points. I think Sterling could easily have had a few more as well. I think he was close to getting a penalty. He also had a few good assists, especially for Jackson. But yeah, nothing happened. So unfortunately, Sterling only 2 points, but he did look quite decent. And yeah, Salah as my captain didn't deliver, but yeah, most people had him as the captain, or they had Haaland. So I think, well, let's see what Son will do. But the Son captainers could be the winners of the game week. Well, let's see
Mm-hmm.
what happens tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's game week 14 and game week 15. We'll face another deadline again on Saturday for game week 16.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get ready for that one.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to cover about model performance this week?
Model performance, unfortunately not, because
No.
I wasn't able to update all the data yet. We will be sharing more details in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will be
No, that's
interesting to
fine.
look at.
Anyway, we said we wouldn't do this every week, so no
Yeah.
worries.
Hmm.
All right, let's then look at our fixture ticker. So, which teams should we be investing in, and which ones should we avoid?
Okay, at the top we have Manchester City. Not surprising, they are playing against Luton Town at
Yeah,
away, but still a very favorable fixture. And then
yeah,
they have Crystal Palace in Game Week 17. Despite having a blank in Game Week 18, they
yeah.
have like two more good fixtures right after that. They have Everton and then Sheffield United in Game Week 20. So
Right.
Manchester City is basically the team to own. I mean, most of us have already like Haaland, Alvarez, or some people have Foden. I have
Yeah.
Ederson. So people already have City players, but I mean, it might be an interesting option to look at if you still have a space.
Yeah.
And in the second place, we have Arsenal. Their favorable fixtures are towards the end of this horizon, starting with Game Week 19 especially, because their three upcoming games are just Aston Villa, Brighton, and Liverpool. You know,
Right.
moderate in average, but Liverpool game might be a little bit difficult. But then they have three good fixtures. At the
Yeah.
third place, we have Chelsea. Like we kept talking about Chelsea, how
Yes.
Chelsea is improving and their fixtures will get better, and they're finally at the third
Yeah.
place now.
Right.
They are playing against Everton this game week, but their favorable fixture is in game week 17 against Sheffield United, both
Yeah.
defensively and offensively a good fixture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And towards the end of this horizon, they have Luton Town in game week 20, so they are also a good team to consider.
Hmm.
Um, we have Liverpool in the fourth spot. They're playing against Crystal Palace, but for some reason, for game week 17, it looks like offensively it will be a good fixture for Liverpool against United. I think models think Manchester United's defense is not that reliable. We will see about
Okay.
that. And
Yeah.
in fifth place, we have Newcastle. They are playing against Tottenham, which is not an easy fixture, but then they have
No.
Fulham, Luton Town, and Nottingham Forest, which is
Right.
very favorable defensively.
Yeah.
Then we have Aston Villa, Manchester United, and Manchester United is playing against Bournemouth, offensively a good fixture. Then we have Brighton, Tottenham, and West Ham at the 10th place. Any
Okay.
comments?
No, well, I'm wearing the Chelsea shirt because, as you said, we've been talking about it since a long time. We've been saying watch for game week 16 as their fixtures will turn. So yeah, we see that now in this chart, the number 3
Mm-hmm.
in the ticker. Even though their recent games weren't too great, I think if we look at the fixtures, this could be the moment to go for some Chelsea options.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Arsenal is interesting. I think it's interesting how fast the thinking can change, right? Because I think last week a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Arsenal defense is great. One defender isn't enough. You should go for two." But now, well, they conceded against Wolves and also against Luton. So yeah, the let's say going heavy on the Arsenal defense didn't work, at least not for the past two game weeks. But still, yeah, let's see how this will evolve during the next games.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's just a few thoughts. And yeah, Newcastle, they keep looking good, especially now. Looking at this chart, I realize that they actually have some good fixtures coming up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something to keep in mind. Even though, yeah, with Newcastle, they have a lot of fixtures. Also with the Champions League, still a big game coming up. So that's something to consider. They have a lot of games, and they also have quite some injured players. So
Yeah.
that could be a risk there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Mm-hmm.
these are, let's say, the top teams. Let's look at the bottom half.
From worst, starting with worst, we have Sheffield
Yeah.
United.
Okay.
And I mean, the fixture this game week is not that terrible. They are playing against Brentford at home, but
Yeah.
then they have Chelsea, Aston Villa, and then Luton Town in game week 19 is not that
Yeah.
difficult. But in game week 20 they have Manchester City, so like
Okay.
quite terrible fixtures in
Yes.
this horizon. And then
Yeah.
in the second spot, we have Luton Town playing against
Yeah.
Manchester City. So it will be a really, really tough fixture for them.
Yeah.
and yeah, should be an easy fixture for City, but who knows?
Well,
As you
yeah,
keep saying,
you
Luton
saw
Town
what
at
happened
home.
to Arsenal, right? They were
Yeah,
quite,
yeah,
they had a really tough game, and
they
they
did.
only won it in the last minute. So yeah,
Yeah, we will see. I mean,
we'll see.
and we have Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Burnley, Fulham, Everton, Bournemouth, Wolves, and finally Brentford,
Yeah,
going from worst to best in this half.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week. Crystal Palace might be a surprise, right? Because they're quite a good team, but they're actually now third in terms of worst teams. With when we look at the upcoming fixtures, and
yeah,
and
that's
that's the
true.
point.
Yeah,
They really have a tough run now
yeah.
with
Liverpool,
Liverpool,
City,
City, Brighton, Chelsea, yeah, and also Arsenal
Brentford,
coming up. So
Arsenal.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, right. Do we also have the chart from RobT?
Yes, we have. And
Oh,
for
there he is.
Gameweek 16 goals and clean sheet odds,
Yes.
so one thing I want to mention is Manchester City has the highest clean sheet probability this game week,
Okay.
55%. And guess
Yeah.
who has the optimal goalkeeper? I do. I have Ederson. I'm excited for this game. I feel like they will keep a clean sheet, or I hope they will keep a clean sheet, but we will see.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be upset if they concede, because I mean Liverpool is also going well in the league, and I'm wearing a Liverpool jersey today. It's a new
All
one
right.
too.
Yeah.
Recently got
Cool.
it.
All right. Nice.
Um, and so some of the updates for this chart: Manchester United is projected to get 2.15 goals against Bournemouth, and they got a boost. So it was 2.0, and now it is 2.15.
All right.
After putting a loss of XG against Chelsea. And
Mm-hmm.
Crystal Palace, so it was 1.1 expected goals against Liverpool, but it got downgraded to 0.95 after a bad performance.
Okay.
And Brentford also got nerfed a little bit, so it
Yeah.
is like 1.75 right now. It dropped around 0.15 because of Mbeumo's injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and well, we will talk about Mbeumo's injury,
Yes.
but Fulham, so they look really good. So their
Yeah.
projections really improved over recent weeks. So I think
Yeah.
season-long projections for Fulham increased significantly.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the visualization and notes by RobT that
Okay.
we looked very quickly. Yeah,
Great.
and also in terms of expected goals, Manchester City is projected to get 2.85 goals against Luton Town, so which is
Right.
worrying for people who doesn't have Haaland like me. And yeah, I think these are all the interesting things in this week's chart.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see if City can bounce back at Luton because in recent weeks they've been struggling. Also losing yesterday against Villa, and not just losing, but really being outplayed. Let's say by Villa. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and also Haaland didn't do much. So let's hope he can bounce back. I'm saying that as an owner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Luton away. We've seen it and we said it before. It's not easy. So that will be an interesting game. And for the rest, Fulham indeed surprising or not surprising maybe, but yeah, they won. They won comfortably and easily yesterday. What was it, 5-0, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to see Jimenez back. Right, I think
Yeah.
he's been struggling to find his form back, and yesterday he scored 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken. So that was really nice to see him back on the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And United. Yeah, it's funny, yeah, because the narrative is United is having a bad season. But if you look at the league table, actually, they're not doing too bad if you compare them to
I
some
think
other teams.
yeah, everyone is doing bad. That's why they
Yeah,
don't
that's
look
another
too
way to
bad.
look at it. Yeah.
Even City
Yeah.
lost lots of points this season.
Yeah, indeed. That's it. And just, they don't play too well, even though yesterday's game was okay against Chelsea. But yeah, they're still a bit struggling. It's a
Yeah.
strange season for United, and it's now McTominay who is their star player, so that's
Yeah.
also a surprise.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we looked at all the data on a team level. Let's
Mm-hmm.
now look at it on an individual player level by seeing who increased and dropped in EV.
Mm-hmm. And I should mention that this table is usually prepared by Chase, but we were in such a short notice between 2 game weeks, so I prepared the
Yeah.
table myself.
Okay.
And also, I also filtered out any players who are owned less than 0.5% because they're not really relevant to most
Right.
people. And still, like, there could be changes to these because when I looked at this morning, I noticed that most models have still Mbeumo projected to have a solid
Yeah.
expected minutes for this game week, which won't
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah.
I tried to give more weight to models which seem to get updated, even at least a little bit. But these will change, obviously. But let's talk about
Yeah.
what are the changes before
Yeah.
to
Okay.
yesterday's games. We
Yeah.
have Evans from Manchester United at the top of the table with
Yeah.
an increase of 6.65
Right.
over next 6 game weeks.
Yeah.
And most of it is coming from this particular game week 16 with 1.67. And we
Mm-hmm.
have Dubravka from Newcastle in the second place because of Pop's injury. And
Yeah.
then we have Konate from Liverpool again. Joe Matip injured, so Konate's projections increased.
All right.
We have Bentley from Wolves in the fourth place. White from Arsenal in the fifth place, a slight increase. And then we have McTominay, you just mentioned.
Yes.
We have
There he is.
Jimenez from Fulham, Anthony in
Yeah.
the eighth spot, Bailey, Aston Villa, and Steele from Brighton at the 10th
Mm-hmm.
place. Any
Hmm.
comments here?
No, yeah, it's just that we see a few goalkeeper injuries, huh? And then we can also see that
Yeah.
here in the chart. Number 2, Dubravka, and also number 4, Bentley at Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
basically coming in to replace the number 1 goalkeeper. So that's something which is well, I don't know if we can call it a coincidence, but I guess it is because there's just a few goalkeepers that are getting injured. Same for Allison. So that's yeah, something we can monitor and maybe also can benefit from, especially Dubravka, low price. Pope will be out for a few months. There was a rumor that Newcastle could go for a new goalkeeper like De Gea. You know, it needs to be someone who's out of contract, so there are not too many options.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then I think yeah, Dubravka could be a good shout. Very cheap and a very reliable defense. So yeah, something to keep an eye on. And yeah, interesting to see how fast the model adapts. Like yesterday, United played quite well, and now yeah, we see McTominay, we see Anthony increasing their EV. So that goes quite fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So these are the ones that are increasing. Who are the ones that are dropping?
We have Tomiyasu at the top of the table with 10.22 EV loss
Yeah.
over next 6 game weeks.
Okay.
Not sure why, but
Injury.
oh, he got injured. Okay,
Yeah, Tomiyasu got injured.
and
Yeah.
we have Kabore from Luton Town in the second place. He's not
Okay.
injured, right? I'm not sure. I checked a little bit, but I
I'm not
haven't
sure
found anything.
either. Maybe he lost his place. To be honest, I'm not.
He also played, I think, in
He's
this
red
week's.
flagged. I
Oh, red
think.
flagged. Okay.
Yeah,
But
red flagged. Oh, but he's playing against his parent club. It says so. That's why the next game he can't play. But I guess the model knew about that before.
Uh, model probably knew about it. Oh, okay. He can play. Okay, probably some
Yeah,
models doesn't have that, and when they
yeah,
see him red flag, probably because like EV loss is across the horizon, not this game week. Only not
right.
only this game week, which is surprising because he played last game week. I
Yeah.
mean this
Hmm.
week. Um, and then in the third spot we have Mbeumo, which has
Yes.
3.11 EV loss over the next 6 game weeks, and
Yeah.
2.4 of them is particularly from this week. But again, as I mentioned, most models were not updated with the news.
Yeah.
And just before we started recording, I think you mentioned that he is confirmed to be out several game weeks.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter from Fantasy Football Scout that apparently Thomas Frank commented on it. He said that it's bad, but they don't know yet how bad it is. But he's expecting him to be out at least for a few weeks. So yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So then he will probably uh, be at
Drop
the top
more.
of this table
Yeah,
when it's updated.
yeah,
In the fourth spot we have Diaby from Aston
yeah,
Villa,
yeah,
Antonio from West Ham, Tsimikas
yeah,
from Liverpool. I think the fact that
mm,
he didn't start
yeah,
impacted a little bit, but I'm not sure. Uh, and then we have Ake from Manchester City, Wan-Bissaka
yeah.
from Manchester United, Al-Dakhil from Burnley, and finally Taylor from Burnley.
Okay.
These are the players who lost EV. These are the top 10
Yeah.
players. Yeah.
Yeah, Mbeumo is a big one because I think last week and the week before, everybody kind of went for Mbeumo. I think his ownership is above 30%. So there's
Yeah,
quite a
it's
lot of
really high.
managers who have him. So this is one that will impact all of us. And we'll talk about it a bit later to see what the options are to replace him. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Diaby is also quite interesting because he did well, but it seems he lost his place to Bailey, and Bailey has been also been doing really good in the last two game weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, another one we should keep an eye on to see who will keep that spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, great. So we looked at the individual players. I think now we can look at the optimal team.
Optimal wildcard 16 team. We have Ederson in the goal, and then Gabriel, Colville, and James in defense.
All right.
Andreas, Salah, Palmer, Son in midfield, and
Yeah.
Solanke, Alvarez, Haaland in forward. And
Hmm.
on the bench we have Dubravka, Douglas Lewis, Pau, and Livramento. And this
Hmm.
team starts with Salah, but I will talk about also the transfer plan a little bit.
All right.
So it starts game week 16 with this team, and then game week 17 it rolls the transfer. In game week 18 it replaces Alvarez with Watkins,
Oh
which
yes.
and he is also the captain that game week against Sheffield United, where City is having a blank game week, and then Liverpool is
Yeah.
playing against Arsenal. So Watkins becomes the optimal captain.
Yeah.
In game week 19 it's uh, it's burning that extra free transfer, so it is kind of flexible
Oh.
in that sense.
Okay.
So you can use that transfer for any something else. And
Yeah.
then it's replacing Salah with De Bruyne
Oh.
in game week 20, which
Okay.
is interesting. So it's
That's
kind of
interesting.
assumed that he will be back soon.
Yes.
And in game week 21, it replaces Son with Fernandez. And then there are, I think, two more transfers beyond this horizon. But yeah,
Okay.
this is the
Well.
team, the optimal wildcard team. What do you
All
think?
right. Yeah, interesting to see Andreas. I think it's the first time that we see him from
Mm-hmm.
Fulham. So indeed, I saw somebody saying on Twitter, if you look at it, Andreas has the same total points as Palmer.
Oh, okay.
And yeah,
That's
and
surprising.
everybody talks about Palmer. I think probably Andreas played a few more games because I think at the start of the season,
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
maybe
Yeah, yeah,
Palmer
yeah.
didn't start yet. But still, yeah, we never really talked about him. Not really on the radar, but yeah, also again an affordable option to consider in midfield,
Yeah,
and a few interesting games Fulham will have in the upcoming game weeks. Yeah,
yeah. He plays against West Ham this week, and then
yeah,
Burnley in game week 18, and then he also plays in the Everton game towards the end of the horizon. But
yeah,
he's also a good bench player. I mean, good player to
yeah,
have in your bench in case something goes wrong, because he also has a Bournemouth game and a Burnley
yeah,
game at the end of the horizon, so not too
yeah,
bad.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, the Chelsea defense. I think we talked about it earlier. The fixtures look really good for Chelsea, and yeah, in general, their defense is quite reliable. I mean, you cannot really say you cannot really be too sure about it because it's not like they're winning every game or it's not like they're not conceding every game. But in general, they look quite reliable
Yeah.
in the back. And with James and also with Colwill, you also have a bit of attacking power.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks good. And I think yeah, the bench is interesting with two Villa players, Douglas Luiz and Pau. Um, yeah, Villa looks really strong, especially at home.
Mm-hmm.
And for game week 18, they have the best fixture. So I think that's also something we need to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, whether it's Douglas Luiz, a Pau, or maybe you still have maybe Watkins or
yeah,
Bailey or
yeah,
mostly
yeah.
Bailey, I
Muddle
would say.
gets Watkins, yeah, for that game week
Yeah,
especially.
right,
But then
right.
Watkins
Yeah,
plays for the entire horizon after that. So
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's good, and that's one thing I was considering as well. Maybe that's something we can talk about now. If we look at the Mbeumo replacements,
Yeah, sure.
as we just said, seems to be confirmed that he will be out at least for a few weeks. So what are the alternatives? And I was thinking also with this Villa fixture in game week 18 in mind, for me it could be a reason to go maybe for Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a look at it. What are the options that you see based on the data in the midfield with a maximum price of 7.5 million?
Yeah, sure. For the game weeks between 16 and 21, ensemble model gives Sterling, Foden, and Palmer as the good replacements. When we
Okay.
were talking about it, I think we decided to look at any players below 7.5 million. I mean, some of these
Yes.
players won't be affordable if you don't have enough in the bank.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
True.
Sterling should be
Yeah.
affordable. And
Yeah.
if we just check the FPL reviews model with a longer horizon, and the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I'm comparing different horizons, just in case someone is wondering, not every model has a long horizon available
Oh
when
yeah.
they give the data. So when I'm
Yeah.
using ensemble, I'm usually using 6 or 7 game weeks of
Yeah.
projections. Um, with FPL review, like I'm looking at the 8 game week horizon now, and Sterling is still at the top with 32.98 expected
Yeah.
value for the next 8 game weeks, and then we have
Yeah.
Foden in the second place with 31.94. Then
Right.
we have Palmer. So the good thing about Palmer is he's only 0.6 less EV compared to Foden, but he's much cheaper. I mean,
Yeah. Much
5.3,
cheaper.
so
Yeah.
pretty cheap. And then
Yeah.
Soboslai in the fourth place.
Okay.
We were talking about him with Trout for the last for the last game week transfer. We were sure that we were replacing Ellison with Ederson, but we kind of also considered getting another Liverpool player. So it just hurt my feelings a little bit when he got lots of points yesterday.
Yeah. He scored a good goal.
Yeah,
And
it
I
was
think
good.
the thing with him is also that you're quite secure about the minutes, right? Because that's something like, I went for Darwin and Simikas and they were both benched yesterday. And
Yeah,
that's something we kind of knew that it could happen. So you take the risk and with Zoboslai you go more in the opposite. You kind of more sure about the minutes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have Douglas Lewis in the fifth place. So his EV is slightly lower than Soboslai, only 0.6.
Yeah.
And then I added 2 more players. So they do
All
not
right.
appear in the top 5, but they are very popular players. We have
Yes.
Gordon with
Yeah.
28.26 EV over the next 8 game weeks with that
Yeah.
6.0 million price.
Yeah.
And Hee-chan at
Yeah.
5.7, and his total EV is 25.84. I think he's the most transferred in player, even though transfer count is not that huge. He's the top right now,
Yeah.
and I was just curious about it. I just compared Palmer with Hee-chan. So this was a visualization I prepared earlier in the
Nice.
season comparing Haaland with Alvarez, but this time I used it to compare Palmer and Hee-chan for the last 14 game weeks and also for the future game weeks. So, in terms of expected points, like based on you know, obviously like they played different number of minutes. Hee-chan played much more. He played around 951 minutes, and Palmer played
Okay.
only 700 minutes. But his total points is 62 compared to 48
Right.
with Hee-chan. So, and these expected points are actually past expected points, meaning that we are checking how much
Right.
expected goals they generated and expected assist and clean sheet probabilities and converting into how many points were expected to get by this player based on the performance on the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we check future horizon, between game week 16 and 23, so Palmer is projected to get 2 goals, where Hee-chan is projected to get 1.6 goals. And in terms of
Okay.
assists, Palmer is almost double, 1.6 versus 0.8. And
Mm-hmm.
Palmer is also projected to play more minutes,
Mm.
and also more minutes per game. And finally, the projected points are 31.6 for Palmer and 25.5 for Hee-chan. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, if you don't have Palmer, I think he's a much better pick. I know that, well, some people already have Palmer, that's why they are also looking for another replacement option. But
Yeah.
in case you don't have, I mean, Palmer is just dominating both like past historical performance and also for future projections. Just something I
Yeah.
wanted to mention.
Yeah, and especially I think if you look at the upcoming fixtures, if we can go back to that chart where you had the
Mm-hmm.
different players, I think yeah, that's just for Wolves. If you look at it, it looks quite tough, right? I mean, the next game is good against Nottingham, but then it's West Ham, Chelsea, Brentford, Everton, Brighton, Man United, Chelsea. So there are quite
Yeah.
some tough opponents there, I would say. Whereas with Chelsea, I mean, we covered it before. The fixtures look really good. They have Sheffield, Luton, Fulham. Yeah, you can see it there. So they have a better run. So yeah, from
Yeah.
that perspective, I
And
can understand why Palmer is looking better here. Yeah,
yeah. And interesting thing is, Foden is at the second place despite having a blank in game week 18. So
yeah,
if you already have a good cover for that game week, he's an interesting option because his EV for
yeah,
this game week is good, 5.05. And also
yeah,
he has a Sheffield United game in game week 20.
yeah,
Although I should mention that some of these EVs are kind of bumped because of the possibility of a double game week. But I think the probability of having a double in 20 is less now.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's
some of these figures are a little bit misleading, I will say.
yeah, yeah. I'm not a fixture expert, but what I understood is that if there would be a double in 20, it should have been announced by now, or it can still happen, but it gets less likely. But again, something to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. And I was thinking about Kudus. I mean, I've thought about him before, but he's again back on my mind. But he's not showing up in your chart.
Yeah, you told me I checked Kudus. I think his EV is even lower than these players.
Oh,
But I know
okay.
that your eye test told you to get him. So I feel like you shouldn't just really, take whatever this table is saying into consideration. I mean, if you feel like Kudus is the player to go with, then I think you should do it.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It's just the next two games are quite good. Fulham away, Wolves at home. But yeah. Just looking at your chart now, I just realized again how good an option I think Gordon is for the next games. Because yeah, Tottenham still a bit weak due to their injuries, and then they have Fulham at home, Luton away, Nottingham at home, and especially Newcastle when they play at home. We've seen that they are really strong, and I think Gordon so far has been scoring a goal in each home game, if
Hmm.
I'm not mistaken, or at least he had a return in each home game. So yeah, Gordon is back on my mind. Yes. As a Mbeumo replacement, as I don't have Gordon yet, and I think a lot of people do have him already, actually.
Gordon or Kudus? Which one do you feel closer?
I think Gordon, yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes. But I also have Bailey on my mind now.
Okay. Okay.
Thinking about Villa.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Douglas Luiz in the chart, but I would go for Bailey, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though, again, from a minutes perspective, Douglas Luiz is more secure. Yeah.
So you
All
already have
right.
Tsimikas and Darwin who are minute risks, and then you are going for another player who has a
Yeah.
minute risk. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
how you play the game.
Well, you see my OR, right? 2.7 million. It's I'm there for a reason, even
You
though
were a little
normally
bit
I do
unlucky.
better. But I've been telling you before, it's quite difficult to get out of that low rank. But anyway, let's
You
see.
believe
I'm
it.
having fun. That's the most important thing, right? Keep having fun. All right. Well, we covered a lot. Let's also look at the captaincy options, as that's a big decision we need to make every week. So, what is the data telling us?
We can skip the captaincy if you want because Holland is clear ahead of everyone
All
else.
right.
And if you
Okay.
have Holland, just captain him. If you don't, then
Yeah.
pick Salah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, we have
All
also
right.
Bruno Fernandes in the third place, Son in the fourth place, and Foden in the fifth place. So in case you are feeling
Yeah.
like you need to take some risks, but
Mm.
Haaland's EV is 8.3, so it's
Wow.
very significant against Luton
I'm
Town in
surprised.
the ensemble model, and he's the optimal captain in every single model.
Yeah.
And in most models, Salah is almost like 20% away from optimal, like being optimal.
Okay.
So there's almost no chance for Salah to catch up. You know, as we get closer to deadline, sometimes these values
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
because of the minutes like predictions. But yeah, this week Holland is way clear of
Interesting.
everyone else. Yeah,
Because personally, I'm actually not too confident because, yeah,
Luton
City
Town.
are struggling a bit, and as I
City
said,
is struggling.
yeah, also Luton away. Wow, yeah, it should be easy, of course, but you think there could also be a minutes risk? I see some people
Hmm.
saying that at some point Haaland needs a break, and maybe the Luton game could be the one.
I don't know. Like I don't know enough about like how Pep's mind work, but
No,
like in past when we thought that Haaland will get rested,
yeah,
he didn't. So I
no,
don't feel like
no, yeah,
betting on it. But
no,
maybe,
that's
yeah,
true.
maybe.
And also because they lost now against Villa, they need to win now at Luton.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, they need their strongest players. This could be a game though, like if they are 2-0 up at halftime, that he might take Haaland off. That happened before, so that could be
Two
another risk.
Alvarez goals in the first half, and then Haaland gets replaced in the halftime. That I'm
That could
down with
happen. We've
that.
seen it before. We've seen it before. All right. Okay. Let's see. But I guess I shouldn't bet against the model in this case and probably go for Haaland. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So do you know already what you will do? Any transfers or any captaincy decisions?
Oh, um. So I was looking at it. I was running the model. I think model originally wanted me to replace Eze this week, but then it was before we got an update about Mbeumo. I think Mbeumo is more urgent because if Eze comes back, he has some good fixtures by the time he's back.
Mhm.
Most likely I will replace Mbeumo, but I don't know who with. Maybe Palmer.
Okay.
Uh,
Palmer? Yeah.
yeah, not sure. Maybe. Probably, but I might also do something spicy
Yeah.
instead. Let's see.
Oh,
How about you?
spicy. Yeah, one thing that I was kind of planning was a goalkeeper swap because I did my wild card and I didn't use a transfer last time, so I have now two transfers.
Mm-hmm.
And my idea was to use, as I said before, I wanted to benefit from the Arsenal fixtures, so I went with Raya first. Well, that didn't work. They conceded against Wolves and they conceded against Luton. And the plan was to move to Sanchez next from Chelsea. So yeah, I regret that I didn't have him before because yesterday he stopped a penalty and he
Mm.
had 11 points. So I regret it. But again, that's just saying that in hindsight, Arsenal had the good fixtures. That's why I went for Raya first. But
Wait, you're
yeah,
replacing Raya then?
yes,
Okay. Oh, so he played only 2 weeks for you. Oh yeah, you
yeah,
said
yeah, yeah,
he was in
yeah.
for particularly those two
Yeah,
game
just for
weeks.
those two. Yeah, I like the Chelsea fixtures better from now on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well.
we'll see. And also, he's a bit cheaper. That was the other thing. So I want to go for the cheaper option,
Okay. Yeah.
so I can use the budget elsewhere. Yeah, and my other transfer needs to be Mbeumo, which was not planned. Not planned. We talked about it before. So probably Gordon or maybe Bailey. Still need to decide. Yeah,
Or Kudus.
or Kudus. Let's see what happens on Friday night. That's usually when I
And I'm
make those
sure you will do
decisions.
something totally different because every time we talk about it, you do something totally different. I'm like
Yeah, and then I
Saturday
will.
morning, I'm checking teams. I'm like,
Yeah.
who this boss again?
And then I will regret it again later. So let's see.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
that
I
sounds
hope a
great.
lot of managers can relate to it. I hope I'm not the only one playing the game like this. All right. Well, I think that's it for today then. Sertalp, anything else?
No, nothing else. I think you also have the mini league
Yeah.
updates.
We'll look at the mini league. So yeah, the game week isn't over yet, so it's maybe too early to look at it. But anyway, let's look at the picture as it is today. We have 347 participants, so it keeps going up. That's really nice. You can still join if you want to. The code is 0JSDLA. The current number one is Matthew Allen with his team Grand Haven Broncos. That's great. Congrats, Matthew. Our number two is Wyatt Haswell. So it's great to see you back, Wyatt. Yeah, you dropped out of the top three last time. And you were actually number one after the previous game week. So, well, great that you managed to fight back. Kudos to you. Currently on number two with the team Fun in the Sun. And on number three, we have a new team. It's Heerpal Sahota with the team FC Sankt Heerpoli. So I think Herpal is a St. Pauli fan, I assume. Yes. Well done to the three of you. Keep it up. And that was it for today. This was FPL Optimized Podcast, episode number 69. Thanks for listening. Good luck with making your Game Week 16 decisions. We hope your arrow will be green. And next week will be more of a normal week again. We won't have a midweek deadline, so we can stick to our usual schedule. And you can probably expect our podcast on Thursday morning. Make sure to subscribe so you will get notified when the next episode is released. And do follow us on Twitter. For Sertalp, it's at Sertalp Bilal. And for me, it's at Belfi BB. And as you know, you can also find FPL Optimized now on YouTube.
And until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.
Goodbye.